Hello, my name is Steve Howdle and welcome to Studio Photography Workshops. We've just finished an evening of still life demonstrations and we had such a good evening. All the attendees loved it and were asking, when you're going to do this again? It went down really well. So we thought before we actually strip the studio back down to a working environment, we'll run through the sets that we created for this event. Everything from what kind of style it could be, from contemporary to vintage. And we can look at things like the props. What did we use in each set? Also, how do we style these things? What should you use, what shouldn't you use? And then of course composition, because you really have to think about the composition when you're creating it rather than when you're looking through the camera. So you've got to think about how it will be represented when you do look through your camera. Then of course the most important of all, lighting. We'll run through the lighting. We had different lights on each set, so all the attendees could use a different style of lighting and a different shape of modifier to see how it creates things. And then finally, once you've got your still life perfect and set and you love what you're seeing, how can you actually make it a little bit more interesting? What else can you do without disturbing the set? So we'll look at ways how camera technique can be brought in to change the look of what you've already created. So, without further ado, shall we have a look at some of these sets? So, for our next set, very simple indeed. We've just got a tile on a stool. That's it. These tiles are just things that you can pick up at DIY stores when they're getting rid of end-of-line stuff. I think this costs 50p, something like that. And we bought various different tiles. This one's got a marble effect. And so I suppose this kind of shot would be referred to as like a flat lay. That is, you're going to be shooting it from directly above. So we've got an overhead light on the whole set. Now it's only a small set, but we've got a light that's covering it and more to make sure we get a nice even soft light. Just a deep umbrella on here with a diffuser on. So a very simple light. Of course it's attached to a boom arm so we can get it above the table. And what we've got on our set here is just a silver spoon. Again, it's quite a decorative spoon. It's got like a scalloped edge, so it looks quite nice when you photograph it from above. If you don't have anything like that, we pick things up like this from just antique shops. They've always got buckets full of these things that they sell for £1, £2 or something. Just have a dig around and find something. And I decided I would shoot blueberries on here. So again, quite a very simple colour palette on here, much like the limes and pears. It was just all about the creams and greens, and this one's basically just about the silver and the blues. So a very simple kind of shot. The hardest part is stopping your blueberries rolling away, but that's all the fun of doing still life. So we've arranged some on the spoon, and then we've put some around the spoon onto the surface here. Now these are probably the most important parts, because once you've piled them up on the spoon, that's good to go. Adding the other elements to balance the image, to give it a little bit of interest and to actually fill in some of the blank spots on your image. What you don't want is an area that's got too much of a gap on it. Of course, the options for shooting this are many. You can do an overall shot and shoot the whole thing. You could come in close and just do the spoon. The lighting's very even and soft. So this is all about, again, trying to highlight the shape of these blueberries and the scalloped edge of the spoon, and then marbling on here. So a very simple setup, easy to do, something that could be very easily replicated in a window again, hence we're just using the one light. If you were doing this in a window, I would just put this on the windowsill or as close as possible with a large white reflector on one side, or possibly on all three sides if you needed to. But that will just push all the light around that's coming in and you can get a nice soft image. So I just took that photograph from directly above, i.e. why we use the term flat lay. We're just looking down on top of the thing and everything's laid out in a pattern on here. But once you've got that shot, what else can you do? If you remember when we started these videos talking about what you can do once you've got your set and you don't really want to disturb it, you want to do something a little bit different, Well, why don't we actually now get in close and have a look at some detail rather than shooting the overall thing, and change our position as well. Remember, this light is quite flat and it's an overall light around this table, so we literally could use any angle here that we thought would look quite attractive. So we can look at the shape of these berries and which way they're facing and just choose an angle to shoot at. Now bear in mind, what I don't want to do is actually go beyond this tile. So I'm going to come in close, choose an angle, and ensure that I just shoot this area. Now of course I am using a macro lens for this, so I can get nice and close. And also obtain some of that really nice shallow depth of field and pick out an interesting detail. So as you saw, we just took two photographs there. One was the directly above, where everything will be pin sharp because we've not got much depth to photograph there. We're shooting at round about f8, and so everything was really nice and sharp and crisp from the tip of the spoon to the handle of the spoon, and the whole thing was in shot, or practically, so you can crop it a little bit if you want. And the second shot, I decided that we would shoot that a little bit closer. So as we get closer, we reduce that depth of field, pick out a detail somewhere and just take a nice close crop. I made sure that when I was framing that, I wanted the handle to travel towards one of the corners of the frame, and in doing so that handle would also be getting softer and softer as it goes to the edge of the frame. So we concentrate all our attention on the fruit at the front there, and these other ones will drop out of focus as well. So it's all about just the bowl of the spoon, a few of these berries, and this just trails off into softness. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please check out some of our other videos on here, and also, most importantly, give us a like and a subscribe. It all helps. And also, why don't you check out studiophotographyworkshops.co.uk. You might find something you like.